This happened to me last summer. I was working remotely at the time, which sounds a lot more glamorous than it actually is. Most days, I just sat hunched over my laptop in my bedroom, surrounded by empty coffee cups and that weird combination of silence and screen glow. I needed a change of scenery badly, and when my friend Erin asked if I wanted to stay a few days at her parents' beach house in North Carolina, I didn't even hesitate. She made it sound perfect. Quiet little coastal town, barely any tourists in the off-season, and a house that sat only a few minutes from the water. Her family wasn't going to be there, so it was just the two of us. I thought it'd be the reset I needed. We arrived on a Monday afternoon. The sun was low, the salt breeze felt nice, and the town was sleepy in the way only summer beach towns are when they're not packed with vacationers. The house wasn't new, but it was nice. One of those 3-story stilted beach houses with faded blue paint and big windows that probably looked amazing in the 90s. The first 2 days were pretty uneventful. We worked in the mornings, grabbed lunch from a seafood shack nearby, and usually ended the night with a movie or a walk on the beach. Erin and I had been friends since high school, so we fell back into our old rhythm quickly. Everything felt normal, until the third night. It started with a window. I was brushing my teeth upstairs around midnight when I noticed the bathroom window was cracked open. Not wide, just a couple of inches, enough to let in a bit of the ocean breeze. Which was weird, because I distinctly remember closing it earlier that evening. I don't like sleeping with open windows, especially ones that face the backyard like this one did. I chalked it up to faulty hardware, or maybe just my memory failing me. Whatever. I locked it again, brushed it off, and went to bed. But then the next morning I found that same window open again. Not just cracked, open. Like someone had lifted it halfway up during the night. I stood there for a second just staring. Something about it made my skin crawl. Erin was still asleep, so I walked around the house quietly checking all the other windows. Every single one was closed, except that one. The logical side of me wanted to believe it was broken. Or maybe I'd left it open without realizing, but deep down I knew that wasn't the case. That window wasn't just drifting open from wind. It had been opened intentionally. I told Erin about it over breakfast. She laughed at first and told me I was just being paranoid, but then I saw something change in her face. Just for a second. Like something she didn't want to say. That's when she told me the story. Erin's parents had only bought the house a couple years ago. They'd fixed it up a bit, repainted the walls, replaced the carpets, that kind of stuff. But Erin said her dad always hated that one upstairs bathroom. He said it gave him a weird feeling. Cold, even in the summer. Like the air didn't move right in there. At first I thought she was joking, but she was dead serious. Apparently, one time while doing renovations, he found a strange stain under the sink cabinet. He tried scrubbing it with bleach, sanding it down, even replacing the wood, but every time it came back. She said it looked like dried seaweed, or hair, or both. I asked why they didn't just call someone, an inspector or whatever, but Erin said her parents were the ignore it and it'll go away type. She laughed it off, but I could tell it bothered her. That night I couldn't sleep. The house was quiet, too quiet. I kept thinking I heard footsteps on the floor above us, which made no sense because we were already on the top floor. At one point I swear I heard the sound of breathing just outside my bedroom door. Not footsteps, not movement, just breathing, like someone standing there. I held my breath, listened. Silence. I tried to tell myself I was imagining things again, but this happened to my cousin Danny 2 years ago. During a weekend he said he'll never forget. Danny had just gotten out of a rough breakup. His fiancée had called off the wedding 2 months before the big day, and he was in bad shape. He needed to get away. So when our uncle offered him the family beach house for a few days to clear his head, he said yes immediately. The place had been in our family for years, a tall white house perched on stilts overlooking the Atlantic. I'd been there a few times and it always felt cozy. But when Danny went that weekend, it wasn't cozy. It was something else entirely. He got there just after sunset. The house was quiet, empty. The air smelled like dust and brine. He texted the family group chat. Made it. Looks peaceful. He said he meant it at the time. But when he unpacked his bag upstairs and stepped into the main hallway, he noticed something strange. At the end of the hall, there was a pull string hanging from the ceiling, an attic hatch. That wasn't unusual. What was unusual was that the hatch wasn't flush with the ceiling. It was cracked open, just slightly, like someone had pulled it down, but never went up. Danny said a chill went through his body immediately. Still, he tried to ignore it. He pushed the hatch back up with a broom, made himself dinner, and settled in on the couch. He had the windows open, listening to the waves in the distance. He told himself he was being paranoid, that the hatch probably got knocked loose from wind or age. That night, though, around 3:12 a.m., Danny woke up in a cold sweat. Something had woken him. A loud, dragging sound above his head, like furniture scraping across the attic floor. He laid there frozen for a minute, staring at the ceiling, listening. Nothing. But just as he started to calm down, he heard it again. A dull thud, followed by something even worse. A voice. It was soft, inhuman, like someone mimicking the sound of a child whispering. He swears he heard it say, "Let me down now." Danny jumped out of bed, turned every light on in the house, and didn't go back to sleep. The next morning, he went outside to get some fresh air. That's when he noticed something truly disturbing. On the side of the house, right under the attic vent, was a series of deep scratch marks in the siding, like long clawed fingers had been raking downward, trying to get out. He took a picture, sent it to the group chat with a caption, "What the hell made these?" No one had an answer. Danny was a skeptic, always had been. He didn't believe in ghosts, demons, or monsters, but he told me something changed in him that second night, because just after midnight, the smoke detector in the hallway went off. Not the fire alarm, just that short chirp like the battery was dying. He went to check it. It was fine. New battery, perfectly functional. Then he saw it again. The attic hatch, slightly open, and this time, the pull string was swaying, as if someone had just pulled it down. He grabbed a broom again, slowly approached the hatch. As he stood under it, he swore he heard something breathe directly above him. He said it was like a low wheeze, wet, labored, like something old, or dying. Danny backed away. This time he didn't push the hatch shut. He just went back downstairs, locked every door, turned on every light, and sat in the corner of the living room until the sun came up. He didn't sleep at all. The next morning he tried to be brave. He FaceTimed me and said, "Look, I'm going up there." I told him not to. I begged him, actually. But he laughed it off and climbed up onto a chair with his phone in one hand and a flashlight in the other. I watched through the screen as he pushed the attic hatch open. The ladder creaked down slowly. Dust rained into his hair. The air looked thicker up there somehow. He climbed 2 steps, 3, and then he stopped cold. In the corner, the story doesn't belong to me directly. It happened to my older sister, Layla. She was 24 at the time and had just gotten out of a toxic workplace. A friend from college offered her a few days at their family's beach rental down in Outer Banks. A perfect solo reset, no phones, no emails. Just the ocean, fresh air, and some badly needed peace. The house was secluded, one of those older, pale gray cottages set back from the main dunes, with a wraparound porch and long grass that swayed even when there was no breeze. She arrived on a Wednesday. She left by Friday morning, and she hasn't spoken about it much since. The first day was perfect. She read on the porch for hours, walked along the shoreline until her calves ached, and made herself a simple dinner before crashing into bed just after 10 p.m. She told me it was the best sleep she'd had in weeks. But the second night, that's when everything changed. It started with a knock. Just after 2:30 a.m., not a bang, not pounding, just 3 soft, deliberate knocks on the front door. Layla sat up immediately, heart hammering. She hadn't seen another soul for over a day, not even on the beach. No neighbors, no dog walkers, just wind and waves. She stayed still, listening. Then, again, knock, knock, knock. Same pattern, same rhythm. She tiptoed to the window, barely pulled back the curtain, and saw nothing. No car in the driveway, no person on the porch. Just shadows, and the sound of the ocean, distant and indifferent. She did what most people would, locked the bedroom door, and waited. Eventually, she fell asleep with a knife from the kitchen under her pillow. But the next night, that's when the real nightmare began. It was just after midnight when she heard it again. 3 knocks. But this time, they weren't at the front door. They were at the back. She froze. She said it sounded like bone tapping against wood. Too hard, too brittle, too slow. Then silence, until the front door knocked again. Same rhythm. 3 knocks. Layla called the police immediately, whispering into her phone. They told her to stay put and that they'd dispatch a local unit. 15 minutes passed. No knocks. Then she heard something far worse. Laughter. Soft, raspy, like it was trying to imitate a laugh. It came from outside the bedroom window. She pressed herself against the wall, shaking. Slowly, she dropped to the floor, crawled to the far corner, and stayed there, not even breathing. She said it felt like forever. Until finally the police lights cut through the window. The officers checked everything. No signs of forced entry, no prints, no footprints in the sand, nothing. They told her it was probably kids messing around. Layla didn't believe that, not after what she saw next, because the following morning as she was packing to leave, she noticed something etched into the wood just beneath her bedroom window, carved deep with something sharp. It read, "You looked at me." She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She got in her car and drove. She hasn't been back since. The weirdest part? When she told her friend, the one who'd let her borrow the beach house, there was just silence on the phone. Then the friend said, almost too casually, "Yeah, that's why we don't go there after dark."